Welcome to Live with Lewis for May 20th, 2004. Hello, I'm Tim Gore, enrichment teacher for the School District of Clayton, Missouri, and part of your Lewis and Clark Then and Now education team, and I'm happy to welcome you today to the beautiful St. Charles Riverfront. We're in St. Charles, Missouri, where the National Bicentennial Signature event, preparations complete, the expedition faces west, has now begun. During the course of the webcast today, you may see some people walking behind us and hear some voices as well, because there are a number of student groups that are going through the National Park Service displays here, their Core 2 Ted of Many Voices, and other things that they've got out here in the same location that we are today. We recommend that anytime you have a chance to go to a signature event or any other location that the Core 2 Ted of Many Voices happens to be at, then by all means take the opportunity to go by. You can find out more about them at their website, nps.gov/LECL. Today, of course, is May 20th, 200 years to the day that Meriwether Lewis made his horse ride from St. Louis to St. Charles to join Captain Clark and the members of the crew who had already arrived in St. Charles after crossing the confluence of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. Today, Scott Mandrell is actually engaging in a reenactment of that horse ride. So we're going to be communicating with Scott via cell phone during the course of today's webcast, so you'll have a chance to hear from him and hear how the horse ride's going. I want to begin, however, with a little bit of footage that we have from earlier this morning as he began the reenactment of that horse ride at the Missouri Historical Society. The media had joined him for a period of time, and you'll be able at the beginning of our footage here to see him talking to Betsy Bruce of Channel 2 News here in St. Louis. And they actually were there at 8 o'clock as for part of their early morning newscast. He read from the journals today for May 20th, so that everybody knew specific information from the journals that Lewis would have written on this day. And then, as you can see here, he gets on his horse GW. That's Tina, owner of the horse, there with him at that point, and he's going to turn the horse around and begin his trip out of Forest Park. The Missouri Historical Society is located in Forest Park, in the western edge of the city of St. Louis. He travels through Forest Park, you can see the golf course there, and begins then to continue his way west through the park is absolutely gorgeous. It's gone through a lot of reconstruction and renovation efforts, and if you're ever in St. Louis, then we highly recommend you spend some time in Forest Park. He had to deal with a little bit of the rush hour traffic that was going through Forest Park at the time, and he wends his way down Wydown Boulevard to Wydown Middle School, which is, of course, the school that Scott teaches at when he's not normally doing Meriwether Lewis, and where Jim and I teach as well. There he is with Marianne Goldberg, the principal of Wydown Middle School, and they had a small contingent of the band there to play some music, and the kids were lining Wydown Boulevard for quite a distance with signs and waving and cheering as he passed by. That's Becky Dahmers, one of our band directors there with the band students. He then headed into downtown Clayton, which is the county seat of government for St. Louis County. Kind of an unusual sight for most of the rush hour traffic people, I suppose, this morning as they were coming through. And there you see him and GW against one of the skyscrapers in downtown Clayton. He then made his way through Shaw Park, a beautiful park that's in downtown Clayton, to the administration building for the Clayton School Board. Had an opportunity to meet with some folks there. And here you see him going past Clayton High School and headed out from Clayton on his way west. This is on Ladue Road. And you can see there that if he chose to take the highway, he would be taking 170 north, which would then connect to 70 north and enable him to get to St. Charles. But of course, he chose not to take the interstate today and instead took Warson Road up to Old St. Charles Rock Road. We just communicated with Scott by phone a few minutes ago, and he told us that he was located basically at the intersection of Page and Warson, so if you're from the St. Louis area, you might have a sense of know where he is. Please feel free to email us questions during the course of today's webcast to lewisandclark@clayton.k12.mo.us. That's Lewis and Clark, all one word, and is spelled out, at clayton.k12.mo.us. Let's take the chance now to call Scott Mandrell on our cell phone here and see if we're able to connect with him and find out where he is and how GW and he are doing in the middle of the horse ride.
Hello.
Hello, Scott. How are you doing?
Excellent. Well, thanks.
So what's it been like this morning? How's GW doing? What was it like leaving this morning? Have you had lots of traffic to contend with?
All of the above. He's doing well. There's been a lot of traffic to contend with. It's hot, but not too bad yet. I think the heat of the day may be yet to come, but we're doing all right, and we're we're keeping to our schedule, so we're moving pretty well.
Speaking of that schedule, at what time are you set to arrive in St. Charles today?
I plan on being at the east side of the river at 5, no later than 5, and then making the crossing so that my arrival in Frontier Park at St. Charles there will take place right at 6 o'clock, which is roughly the time that Lewis is recorded to have arrived 200 years ago today.
That's absolutely right. Now, when Lewis arrived, he had a contingent of people with him, correct? There were people from St. Louis who joined him on the horse ride?
That's right.
Who were some of those folks?
Well, Shoto and Grecio and some of the other people who were Stoddard, I believe it was in that day, and sort of the local muckety-mucks from St. Louis, as well as his fellow soldiery, the command staff of the area, who actually wanted to share the moment. It was a very important moment 200 years ago. They were even aware 200 years ago what meaning it had for the town of St. Louis.
Well, we're able to show the folks right now some images. We've seen the video footage that we took this morning as you left the Missouri Historical Society and headed into Clayton, and then we're showing them some other still images right now. How many miles is this horse ride for the Missouri Historical Society of St. Charles for you?
It's about 20 miles today, so it's similar. In fact, in some ways, it's similar to the daily rides I was doing last year. In fact, in some instances, it may actually be somewhat shorter. We were doing longer days last year, so it's an all-day ride for sure.
And is the weather similar today or different from 200 years ago?
Well, according to the journal 200 years ago, it was a warm, fair morning. In fact, I believe the journal records that, well, as you know, that they did get hit by a storm, but it was interesting because they talked about, the possibility of scattered showers. It sort of sounds like the forecast we had here yesterday.
Well, Scott, we're going to give you a chance to ride on for a bit, and we'll call you again at the end of the webcast today so people can now see some footage of the boats as they cross the confluence of the river over the weekend, and then your arrival, the boat's arrival, I should say, that happened here on the 15th of May.
Very good. Line of Page and Morrison, where it turns into Ashby right now. A lot of traffic. I'm trying to decide between Jack in the Box, Steak and Shake, and Long John Silver. We'll see you.
All right, we'll see you. All right, proceed on.
Bye-bye.
That's Scott Mandrell trying to determine which fast food restaurant he's going to spend his lunchtime at, evidently. For a good part of the rest of our webcast today, we want to give you guys a chance to catch up on the amazing amount of activities that have been happening as part of the Bicentennial commemoration here in this area. On May 14th, of course, the Discovery Expedition put their replica keelboat and pirogues into the waters of the Mississippi River and crossed the confluence of the Missouri and Mississippi rivers just as the original expedition did 200 years ago. Then they arrived in St. Charles on May 15th as part of the opening ceremonies for the Bicentennial Signature event. And we're going to go to some video footage now so you can see a lot of that activity. So, Jim, go right ahead and weave that video footage in for us.
A welcome omission, and that would be complaints. I have not heard a one. In spite of the inclement weather and wading in the mud and all the other things that we've had to deal with, complaints don't exist in this group. In the words of William Clark, I believe that religious duties consist of doing justice and endeavoring to make our fellow creatures happy. I think you guys are doing that. And I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud to be a part of this group. I salute you guys. Go up and cook!
O Lord God of the universe, we implore you this day to give us the loan of your Son, Jesus Christ. Let him join our expedition into the vastness of your creation, as you surely did 200 years ago to the hardy men who preceded us on this journey. Place your divine hand on the pillars of our boats and the steering of our vehicles each day of our journey. And Lord God, ease the burden of those whose job it is to plan, to sketch, and direct this adventure. And at its conclusion, Lord, let us give all the glory to you and for what you have allowed us to accomplish. Amen. Amen.
Julio Pollack, Bojo Pollack, present,
You'll be able to see the rain there, and the men in their rain gear marching forward just there along the Alton Highway. That's Larry McLean, other members of the Discovery Expedition of St. Charles. This is the expedition moving after their ceremony at their replica Camp Dubois and getting themselves onto the two replica pirogues. One pirogue moves some men over to the keel boat, which is also there sitting at the mouth of the Wood River. And you see them getting into the replica pirogues here. And there you see the 55-foot keel boat of the Discovery Expedition as it begins to shove off. That is the mouth of the Wood River where it is today, of course. And in a moment you'll see them shove off and head out into the Mississippi. They then headed downriver to participate in part of the National Bicentennial Signature event in Hartford, which was going on that day. And they participated in a ceremony there that began at 3:30, and then at 4 o'clock they left from Hartford and directly crossed the confluence of the rivers. So there you can see the keel boat beginning to head out. Obviously, the boats today have engines on them. You can probably tell that with the keel boat as you see a little bit of the water movement in back. That's done, one, for safety purposes, of course, because they've got to deal with barge traffic. Two, for speed, because the river in many places travels much faster today than it did 200 years ago. And, of course, this Discovery Expedition has appointments to keep, so to speak. A variety of bicentennial events are going on at all sorts of different places along the rivers, and they're going to all sorts of towns and meeting all sorts of people, and those people, generally speaking, would like them to arrive at somewhat on time if they're going to be there for the ceremony. Unlike the original expedition, the Discovery Expedition does indeed know that they have to be someplace at a certain point in time that the original expedition did not know. There you see the red pirogue going down the Mississippi, and now in a moment the footage will switch and you'll begin to see them crossing the confluence of the two rivers. This is from our webcast that we had on Friday the 14th. This is at the Edward Ted Pat Jones Confluence Point State Park, a brand new state park facility that the Missouri Department of Natural Resources has just opened. It was dedicated the Sunday before May 14th. And here you see the replica keelboat and the two pirogues beginning to move into the waters of the Missouri River. At this point in time, the river is probably flowing, the Missouri is probably flowing into that confluence at about 10 to 12 miles per hour. So the boats obviously have to be going at a speed which enables them to move ahead of that pace and therefore continue on upstream. A fairly good-sized crowd was both at Hartford and at the Confluence Point State Park. Even though it was a rainy day, you can probably tell that from the video footage. There was a good deal of rain that day, especially in that morning. But by the time they're crossing the confluence of the rivers, which occurred at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the rain had pretty much let up. Now they're beginning to go into the Missouri River itself. And there you see the keelboat go into the Missouri River, and it will be followed by the two pirogues. There's the white pirogue crossing from the Mississippi into the Missouri rivers, and then that will be followed by the red pirogue as well. Very exciting day for members of the Discovery Expedition and for all sorts of Lewis and Clark aficionados and experts and just interested public 200 years to the day that those three boats would have originally been crossing the confluence as well. And here you see them going up the Missouri. After the confluence footage, we're going to have the opportunity to show you their arrival, which of course occurred in St. Charles on May 15th. The original expedition arrived on May 16th, but as part of the opening ceremonies for the Bicentennial Signature event, which is occurring in St. Charles, the Discovery Expedition arrived. And it was a beautiful day. Unlike the day before where we had all sorts of rain and clouds, it was an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful blue sky and lots of sunshine. And according to the police, about 75,000 people were in St. Charles on the riverfront that day. Let's go to that footage now. There you see the replica keelboat and the two pirogues coming down the Missouri River, coming up, I should say, the Missouri River, just signaling a salute to the people on the shore. A huge crowd turned out. It was an absolutely gorgeous day. This fabulous photography is by our technical director, Jim Sturm, who managed to stand pretty steady on the boat as they were in the middle of the Missouri River. Nice close-up shot there of the men on the keelboat. Dressed in military uniform, they're part of the military part of the expedition because, of course, the original Corps had trained at Wood River to engage in making sure they would be ready to be a military unit. And there you see the white pirogue as well. In St. Charles, of course, they pick up a variety of engagés, voyageurs, who are going to help them move the boats upriver. And there you see all three boats on the Missouri River. It was a spectacular day. Lots of excitement from the people on the shore, and I'm just going to let this picture play out for a moment so you can just enjoy the beauty of it. As the keelboat arrives, you begin to see a good shot of the crowd there. And the crowd was to the left of the screen and to the right of the screen as well. They were up and down the shoreline there. The keelboat arrives, and they're greeted very warmly by the people on the banks. City of St. Charles has certainly done itself and its legacy proud with what they're doing at this Bicentennial Signature event, and their Heritage Days Festival, which has been going on for 25 years here in the St. Charles area, and is also occurring as part of the signature event here. Now you're going to see the red pirogue coming into shore as well, and then once the red arrives, of course, they're joined by the white pirogue, and all three boats have arrived then. Once they arrived, they were greeted by various dignitaries from the City of St. Charles. Mayor Patty York was there. You see her walking up the stairs, and in his full uniform is Charlie Clark, portraying Captain Clark. Charlie is, of course, the great-great-great-grandson of William Clark, and he was followed by York, the African-American slave of Clark who was on the entire expedition. And there you see various members of the Discovery Expedition of St. Charles. Another wonderful picture of the crowd greeting them. They, of course, had to wend their way through that large throng, and they arrived there on the parade grounds where a short ceremony took place as part of the opening ceremony of the festivities. There you see a nice shot of the men of the Corps, Captain Clark and York appearing here in the center. And a large crowd had gathered at the parade ground so they could see and hear the opening ceremonies. The men sang Chester, and the American flag was raised. New Columbia's God forever. Cheers for the Corps' discovery of the United States of America. The men then began the march to their camp. And there's the members of the Corps in formation. They're just about to be dismissed, and as you can see, they're going to be rather pleased with that result when they get the order to be dismissed. And then we're going to have a chance to hear a few words from Charlie Clark on what it was like to arrive in St. Charles 200 years to the day of his ancestor. What was it like coming in?
It takes one's breath away. It's quite spectacular, and a thrill and honor to have been able to take part in this, to be part of this recreation of the historical event. I've never had an experience this awesome.
So for Charlie and for everybody else who was part of the Discovery Expedition of St. Charles, an absolutely spectacular day. I'm sure they felt a mix of anxiety and excitement as they came up on the shoreline, but the City of St. Charles came out in great numbers for them, and it was certainly extremely exciting. There's been a number of festivities that have been taking place all throughout the course of the Bicentennial Signature event, which began May 14th and continues into May 23rd. So if you're somewhere in the St. Louis area and you want to head out to St. Charles between now and May 23rd, then I'm sure the City of St. Charles would welcome your presence here. The Discovery Expedition of St. Charles will be actually shoving off on the 23rd of May as part of the Bicentennial Signature event closing ceremonies. They'll do a small ceremony on the 21st of May, 200 years to the date of the original expedition's departure, and then the large closing ceremony as part of the Bicentennial Signature event will occur on May 23rd. Speaking of ceremonies, another ceremony was held here as part of the Bicentennial Signature event festivities, located at the Boathouse and Nature Center here for the Discovery Expedition of St. Charles. A marker was set aside for Glenn Bishop, dedicating this particular land to the man who founded the Discovery Expedition of St. Charles and began the dream that would become a reality when the men arrived here, and also a service in honor of recognition of Peter Geary, a member of the Discovery Expedition who also passed away this year. We've got some footage of that dedication ceremony, and we'd like to have a chance for you to see it now, and then we're going to connect to Scott Mandrell again.
On our mission to follow in the footsteps of Lewis and Clark. The Lewis and Clark Boathouse and Nature Center sits on 3.8 acres of Missouri River front land that is in the historic district of St. Charles. This site has been designated as Bishop's Landing in honor of Glennon E. Bishop, the motivating force to create the replica boats, and along with his family, the founder of the Discovery Expedition of St. Charles, Missouri. Before Glenn passed away in 2001, he was instrumental in the design, location, and fundraising for the Boathouse and Nature Center. Today, the Discovery Expedition, in partnership with the Historic Preservation Society, permanently marks this site with an historic monument. Would Joanne Bishop please come forward and unveil the monument?
I'd like to thank the city of St. Charles for letting us have this wonderful location for our Boathouse and Nature Center, and for all the help that they've given us, the council for naming this land Bishop's Landing. I just think that's wonderful. And our family is honored and proud that we can have a part of this, and we're so proud of our beautiful building, and we want you all to come and visit as often as you can. And thank you very much.
Finally today, we want to honor another of our leaders, Peter Gary, who passed away this last year. I can assure you that those who have picked up where Peter left off on scheduling stops with communities and our crew management can testify what an asset he was. He managed the 2003 trip scheduling pretty much single-handedly, and now we have 3 or 4 working on 2004. On the southeast corner of the building, where we are developing a nature area, that's on the other side of the corner, we've started Gary's Grove with pin and numbered oak trees, fast-growing trees from Littleville, Letter Land. Julie Bishop Day has created a marker for the grove, and I'm going to ask Marilyn Gary to come forward and unveil the marker, which will be placed in the grove later on.
He is a good friend to many of you, to the choir, and the city of St. Charles. He was a leader, a motivator, a visionary, and a storyteller. He was an arts advocate and loved spending time outdoors where the art of nature was most beautiful, and where he could bring history alive in the present moment. This area, now called Gary's Grove, would mean a lot to him. It was Mary's favorite hangout, and looks out over the ever-changing, mighty Missouri River. I would like to thank each and every single one of you, especially the core members, who made Gary's Grove a reality.
And with that ceremony, 2 exceptionally important members of the Discovery Expedition were honored. We're going to take the opportunity now to call Scott Mandrell again on his cell phone to close today's webcast to see if he's going through the fast food lane of Jack in the Box with GW his horse, or he's decided to stop on the side of the road and have something from Burger King. We'll find out in a minute. Jim, are you about to dial? Oh, that's why you get the feedback. We're dialing right now. And we'll see if we're able to make a second connection. Hopefully he's not in the middle of slurping up something in terms of his diet beverage. Of course, he might be feeding the horse as well, who's to say. He could always be standing in line trying to determine which of the Happy Meal options he's going to be eating today. Or he could just be saying to himself, if I take a long time to answer the phone, how much will Tim be able to say on the air until I finally decide to answer? Any number of options are possible. Evidently he's... Are you there, Scott?
The voicemail box.
Oh, Evidently, he's had to turn it off, so that means he and GW are probably by the side of the road eating their lunch right now, which is a good thing because, of course, they've got quite a few more miles to go until they get to the east side of the Missouri River near St. Charles. And they're going to cross on a barge, which will get them over here to St. Charles itself, and they plan to be at Frontier Park here at the riverfront by 6 o'clock this evening. It's been a pleasure to be with you here for Live with Lewis from St. Charles. Please be sure to join us on down the trail throughout the rest of the summer months. This begins the first of our weekly webcasts that are going to occur throughout this summer and next fall as the Discovery Expedition begins its trip up the Missouri. Next week on the 27th we'll be in New Haven, and the week after that on June 3rd we'll be in Jefferson City. So we look forward to seeing you at those two places, and go to our website at ali.apple.com/Lewis and Clark in just a week, and we'll have our entire summer schedule there for you. Thanks very much. We look forward to seeing you again. Until then, proceed on.